Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, all the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop Virginia Politics. I'm your host, Bettina Lawton. We have a two-segment show. The first several segments, we are pleased to have Cathy Hudgens with us. She is the supervisor of the Huntermill District, my district, the greatest district in Fairfax County, I might add. And then the last segment, we're going to be talking to you about the We Are Women rally that's happening on the weekend. So, thank you for coming, Cathy. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know that you are always running everywhere with all of the different responsibilities you have.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to do it.
Well, let's talk about the derecho, I think is how you say it.
Derecho, yes.
That horrible wind and rainstorm and the power outages that we had at the very end of June. And I still see people clearing out down trees and brush. I mean, it was amazingly horrible. From the county perspective, though, when 9/11 went down, I have to tell you I was more than a little stunned, because after September 11th, we all thought that the emergency system had been upgraded, everybody could talk to everybody, it was all fixed, and then we don't have another terrorist attack. We have just a really bad rain and windstorm, and the emergency system went down. So what happened?
What happened? Well, it was really a horrific storm, but I do agree that the 911 failure was probably the most frightening aspect out of the entire event, because the lack of confidence that the community would have in their 911 system is worse than having the fear of a storm, because we were very lucky that there was no major emergency that occurred during that time. But the storm was very difficult, but I think the issue with the 911 failure was the provider, Verizon's backup, that was needed and expected and part of the agreement of not only Fairfax County, but the other members in the region. And so we've had a great deal of conversation about it. Most importantly, the Regional Commission had a review with Verizon and the other utilities. And I think to Verizon's, to the point of the elected leaders in the community, as you said, in 9/11, we had great deal of concern about the inability to communicate.
Right.
And we were given the confidence when we built our system on which we coordinate all of our emergency preparedness that 911 was a secure piece. The loss of a backup generally has a backup to that plan. And in Verizon, we didn't have that.
Well, I read something, and I don't know if this is true. You can't believe everything you read in the paper, but I had read it was they had their backup generator failed or something, and I was like, "You're kidding me!" They had one, two. How do you not have when you are the 911 provider?
You're the last resort. This is the last place that the community can go through. They explained that they had backups, and our backup was in Arlington, and a lot of questions was, where should the backup be? Old system workers say, you want to have your backup in as a stable a place to be less likely to be affected by an event.
Well, how does Arlington qualify?
Well, it's part of the region, and if you think about all of our regional planning, that's what made us really fearful of why this happened. And that is a concern, that how has Verizon prepared? And I will tell you, I think, again, working together as regional leaders, because it only affected Fairfax County, some part of Prince William, and Arlington, but not the entire region. But the entire region and the entire nation should be concerned, right, because it could happen to them. And so we have communicated, I think, clearly to Verizon that working with the Fairfax County Communications Emergency folks, as well as the region, that within a time frame, we need to have answers to this. We think there are some things that they could have done, and be able to justify that a backup failure is not an excuse. That is just not one that's acceptable. And while the storm was a horrific storm, and many of the utilities lost infrastructure themselves, so they couldn't prepare to help us.
Right.
That communications piece should have had a sufficient enough alternative, whatever. I think the other part is that they didn't communicate with us. We have a coordinated regional facility in which all of the other utilities were sitting at the table with us. So they were missing, and that was unfortunate because they may have been able to help us work through getting to the community better. It was unfortunate that most of us were all learning it at the same time, and that really is not the way we have. It's just not the way the region nor Fairfax County has dealt with emergency preparedness since 9/11.
Well, do we have, it's a contract. The county has a contract. You are to provide 911 services, and you are to keep them up, and you're to do this. So does the county get any kind of monetary payback? The county ended up spending lots of money. There were lots of special folks running around trying to help residents, all of which is coming out of the county budget, I'm assuming. Does Verizon have to pay some kind of penalty?
Well, I'm not sure what the contract says right now, because the most important thing that we said, and then the night that we were sitting in the regional commission meeting, had a storm coming up, and we were saying, what we want is an answer so that we can know how the community is going to be taken care of. And we can deal with the contract piece any and after times that will come, because the most important thing is to know. They have gotten together with the folks that are in our emergency preparedness and answering some questions and giving them some confidence that they're communicating and they can communicate with us, because that was the part that, in addition to the failure happening, not knowing until hours later that there was a failure, it was a very frightening experience, and I think it's one that everybody has taken notice of.
Well, let me quote you, because I love this quote, and I read it in the paper, and it says that you were quoted as saying, when you say you're going out to the social media and no one is hearing you because they're not connected, it has no meaning. We've got to figure out what takes us back to the old school communications when modern technology fails us. Do we have any plan for what to do? Because that was one of the things that I saw a lot of people very frustrated by, where it would say, well, go out and check the county website, or go out and look at Facebook, and people were going, I have no electricity. How am I supposed to do that?
I don't have my BlackBerry.
Right.
I don't have my telephone.
Exactly.
And that was the frightening piece, and that's the point, that something has to be put in place that can take over what we have become a norm of in this social media. And I think we compared it to other utilities. It was very easy to know where things were with the power outages and the like. So we needed to know the same thing about our communications piece. And most importantly, I think you've got to be a partner in this region. And that's what all of what we've talked about. Mm-hmm. Is it from county to county, as well as utility to utility? Everybody working together. That's how it really works for us. And so I think those are the things that can be put in place. What could we have communicated with all of us sitting at the table and saying, okay, here's the solution until we find out what the real problem is?
And what's the time frame on getting the big solution that says the 9/11 will stay up and everything's going to work? Is there a time frame out there for that?
Well, we had a time frame when we left the meeting, and I really can't tell you the status of it tonight, but I will tell you that we asked for some very basic things. That first and foremost, we needed to understand how and what you are doing about your backup piece, because the backup has to be answered. And most importantly, you've got to find a communications link that you will give to us as elected officials and the folks that work with us. Those are the basic things that should be done pronto. Mm-hmm. It should be before the next storm comes. We don't want anything else to happen. And Phil, I think we have some of those things in places, but we have to define the long term of how we're going to move forward on this contract.
Because it is very frightening when you think you're completely cut off from any kind of help. That to me was like, wow, not a good thing. Let me talk, there is a public hearing coming up on September 11th. Yes. And it's got two different pieces to it, but the one that I think particularly you know about because it's Reston oriented, is this 23-story office building, 418,000 square feet. It's massive, and I've seen that corner. I've seen the building that it replaces, and I've seen the artist renderings of what's going to go in its place. And I know you asked for a delay in the hearing to give people time. What is going on with that? That is huge. That's a huge building.
It's a large building, and it's for Reston. It's not as large as it appears, and I think the part is putting it in context. It's a part of a parcel that is over 43 acres, and it's only 3. So it's 3 of 43 acres. It's also a parcel that has been developed as just one small piece of that larger piece that already has a redevelopment plan. So the question asked is whether this is appropriate, right. Whether it's within the context of the comprehensive plan and the planned residential community zoning. I think it fits in with the community. And I think what we have to understand is what is it that we're asking for, and does the developer have a right to move forward in the direction that they're going? We will have to look at answers to those questions when it comes to the board. It has the Planning and Zoning Committee's approval, has the Design Review approval, has the Planning Commission approval, but it does have a lot of concerns for the community. One thing that I would say about this development, as well as any and all others that are coming forward, Reston is changing an awful lot. Rail means an awful lot to us. But Reston is one of the few communities that has probably the larger live-work environment in all of Fairfax County, and it has no rail today. I call it the TOD without transit. And I think what that says is, and the concerns it addresses, the concerns is the fear of how will we manage the congestion, because
right.
One of the discussions in the community is, do we have the right mix of housing and commercial in that area? Mm-hmm. And that's the discussion that I think we have to work through.
Well, and it is, because it's sitting up there on Reston Parkway,
right.
And anytime I go up into a Reston, as you know, for a meeting in the evenings,
there it is.
You hit the Parkway, particularly near the town center, right. And it is really, really congested. So,
well, my commitment has always been that Reston development, as long as I'm around, conforms to Bob Simon's plan, and that is that we connect people, that we have a great integration of the services, so that uses, so that we really function well. We'll get to the same on this.
All right. Well, stay with us. We're going to be right back with Cathy Hudgens for some more conversation, spanning out from Reston. Stay with us, please.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Here's your uncle.
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's? No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those?
Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. Message.
to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. This is the Inside Scoop, Virginia Politics, and we are here with Huntermill Supervisor Cathy Hudgens. We were talking about development in Reston, but we're going to switch over a little bit. We're going to talk about the other thing that's going to happen at the public hearing on September 11th, and that is amendments to the Fairfax County budget.
Yes.
And we have got like a $3.5–4 million budget in Fairfax County, and there appears to be extra revenue that came in, some money that wasn't spent, and now this is the meeting where do people get to come in and say, here's what I think you should do with it, or what's the process?
Well, the process is really for the board to decide whether the adjustments that have been made in the 12 budget and the carryover that is left from that budget, how will it be used, and are there other pertinent, most importantly, are there critical issues? Generally with our carryover, because of the manner in which we budget, we rarely have any significant revenue left, and I think we have a little over $28 million. So some of those are made with making adjustments to the current budget that were already programmed, fundings that were there. But there are some issues that have come up that are very serious and that were really to be addressed at carryover. Rarely do we address major issues at carryover, but one that's most significant to us is the Community Services Board. Mm-hmm. Community Services Board is actually a state function that is governed by a board that's appointed by our Board of Supervisors. And it is the board that delivers the services for intellectual disability, substance abuse, and mental illness. Very critical services to the community. It is funded through the state. State funds approximately 10% of most regions' budget, but if you think about how critical those services are, you can imagine what happens. So there we are with about 75 to 80% of the budget funded out of the general fund. It's a good news, bad news story. The good news is on the issue of intellectual disability, for example, we have gone to a population of 5% of the budget going to that, to identifying as much as 38% of service delivery. And the ability to keep that rate is very difficult. More importantly, about 6 years ago, we decided maybe we can't afford to put with the general funds to the level that we've been doing. And we've asked the Community Services Board to go out and look at other ways of funding. Go out and seek waivers from the state. The waivers would allow a waiver to provide services to individuals in all of these service areas, and to find other creative ways of funding the services, mm-hmm. such as third-party payments. In those years, they've tried, but it's a very difficult piece, and they've not been successful. So the disturbing part is at the end of 2012 budget, we found that they had not been able to keep their 12 budget, and we therefore had to plan through how do they close the budget and how do we move forward. They've proposed, and through a really large outreach to the community, clients that are served and families, as well as the general public, what do you think we should do about this? We used our very, very, I call nifty citizen input, the Human Services Council, which provides a lot of understanding of all of the community services and makes recommendations to the board. And they did the outreach. Well, the public gave us some very interesting messages. First and foremost, we know these are extremely critical services.
Right. Well, this is a very vulnerable population.
It is the most vulnerable population. And take intellectual disability. The infant toddler program is the one that's had the greatest increase. This is an opportunity to identify infants at birth and determine how can we intervene right away. The state allows us a time frame to identify them. Once assessed, then we have to start serving them. Well, you take 5% and you think you budgeted for that amount in your budget, and it's the 38%, that's a high piece. But what do you do when you don't serve these infants? Mm-hmm. Because these are the students, young infants that are going to grow and come to our school system. And if they aren't prepared, that's difficult.
Well, aren't you then, if you don't serve them today and try and intervene now, you're basically pushing off the financial issue, I mean, wholly apart from the human issue of not helping them. You're pushing that financial issue just down the road when they all hit the school system, and now you have to intervene because you've got a whole other set of requirements as well in terms of educating people.
That is exactly. I call it, the county is sort of the bookends on this issue, because we have them before and we have them after. And the after, we want the success story that we've been able to provide as much prevention, so that the intervention cost is not so high.
Well, how did it go from 5 to over 30?
Well,
I mean,
because
are there suddenly more children, or is
I think there are more children. We have a large increase in identification of autism, but we also went out with the intentions of trying to identify as much of a population to do exactly what you said, to make the changes as soon as possible. What we have is a $9.5 million deficit in that budget. We will probably be able to try and address some of them, and others will have to determine how does the 2014 budget shift such that 2013 budget shifts so that we will have a long-term carryover that makes sense. It's not a good thing to do at carryover, because you have to deal with recurring costs. You can't have the one-time funding that's there. But I think it's something else, though, about all of these services. Mental illness, we know, just thinking of things that have happened recently in our communities, that these are really the most critical services that you can provide for people, because when they are left uncared for, they not only are ones that suffer, but the community suffers. And so what I think also the board is going to do, in addition to the budget and people coming and telling us how they feel about that, is that we really have to make a commitment. What are we going to do to deal with these issues? There's one issue that is very important. I indicated the amount of funding that comes from the state. This program for all community services boards, their budgets are, it's an $8.5 million deficit around the Commonwealth. So we're just talking about a small amount that comes to us. We should be receiving $1 million, and that's what we've asked for. The state, we said, you have a surplus now.
Right, I was just going to say, the governor was touting this great surplus of his.
This is an urgent issue. This isn't something that we can talk about later, but we really need, as we try and wrestle with it at the local level, for the state to step up and meet its responsibilities. The governor has championed a surplus in his budget, but the reality is, yes, there was increased revenue, but there were cuts, and there were cuts in areas that are critical areas for service delivery. And these populations, we didn't talk about detox and what that means, and mental health. Those are really, really important services. We actually had the police department come and testify to say it's important that you continue the detox programs. It's important that you continue the mental illness interventions so that we provide services. We had the judges come and tell us the same thing. So we know we're doing the right thing. The question is, how do we get the revenue picture correct? And that's what the carryover is about. There are some other things that are in carryover, but there are two things I would like to say about carryover. This is an unusual year for Fairfax County, having major problems to solve at carryover. We try and close our budget at a time in that we've made a clear decision and we can feel comfortable moving forward. And that happens because I think we do have a very good budget process. But unfortunately, these problems were not identified early enough, and that's one thing that we have to correct about the process.
Well, that's something, we talked earlier in the first segment about the communication with Verizon.
Yes.
It seems that there needs to be a better level of communication with the community services board people so that you don't get this far down the road and then suddenly realize you've got a multi-million-dollar hole in their budget.
Well, it really is, and the community services board is a unique board, different than a lot of other boards that we consider advisory. They have a statutory role, and that's a really difficult role to play, and we've been through a revision of that board's governance so that we can actually bring together not only people but policies within the board so that they can function as efficiently as possible. I think they've worked hard, but it's a very difficult one to do, and I think we can move the change around the table, and then you suddenly say, oh, what's happening here and how do we care for it?
Well, and I do recall years ago reading a book that a fellow named Pete Early wrote about his son and how the holes in the mental health system ended up being filled, so to speak, they weren't really filled, by the police.
That is
because
exactly right.
the people they weren't getting the treatment, there weren't the beds, there wasn't the help, and they ended up being arrested, and that's
Just
where
another
you were
part.
supposed to then take care of them, but that's not what,
That's
really
really
the jails are not set up to do
It is
that.
not, and we're fortunate to have a very strong police department that really appreciates, and over the years they have come to understand that they can really be a partner in this. They can do the role that they're supposed to do in protecting the community, and we are there to do the part of serving these folks so that they can have the kind of service they need and really be able to come back and live in the community as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Well, I want to talk to you also about what are the plans in Fairfax for what's going on with the federal budget. I read a statistic once that said something like 40% of federal contracting dollars come into Fairfax.
That's exactly.
So we're now looking at these automatic major cuts that are supposedly going to take place if the people on the Hill can't get their act together, which seems to happen increasingly frequently. What's going to happen to Fairfax budget, your projections, your programs, if those cuts go through? What's the plan?
Well, it's really I call it a double down piece this time, because as we closed our budget, we and as we look at carryover, we always we have reserves, and so we've also been cautious of saying there are federal challenges that might face us outside of the budget closing. And then we got a nifty email from the county executive the other day to say, our growth is even down. And so now we have to really, and right now, he has already gone to his staff, to the county employees to say, it's time for you to start looking right now. Now remember, you just closed your budget. And while we prepare I call it the 3 cycle of a budget, it never closes. Now we're looking at additional cuts that they may have to do in services. And it's preparing for both of these. The sequestration, as we all learned to call it, right. and just whether or not, if our growth does not keep up, it double a whammy for us in terms of how the county is going to continue managing. That's programs, and that's programs that have already been constrained. First place he went to was also to say to the employees, gosh, we were prepared to have increases that we were committed to do at the beginning of the year. We may not be able to do that.
Right. Which is very tough all the way around.
It is. It's a very tough picture.
Very tough. Well, we are going to go to break. We can hear the music. That's our cue. So we are going to go to break, and then we're going to come back, and we are going to talk about Metro, one of, I'm sure, Supervisor Hudgens' favorite topics. She is the chair of the Metro Board, and it is always in the news. So when we come back, we are going to talk Metro. Stay with us.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing. No. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with one
neglected system.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. We are here for our final segment with Cathy Hudgens, and we're going to be talking about Metro. We've got a bunch of issues with Metro. We were talking off camera about the on-time record, and is that getting any better? I don't hear that it's getting better, but it's something that I know the Metro Board has been focusing on for a while, because if you can't rely on it to get you there without being late at the get-go, or breaking down, or getting stuck, or having problems with the rails, then people aren't going to be willing to take it. And so what, in terms of the on-time issues, what's going on there?
Well, Metro is an old system. It's a very critical system to this region. And one of the things that I think as a board and as an agency or an authority, I think it's very much a commitment. First commitment is safety. Second commitment is good service, and being able to continue providing, be the engine for this region. I mean, it truly is the engine for the region. But as I said, it's an old system, and we are in a major state of good repair build-out. And it's something that has not been had the attention in the prior years, and I think our clients or our customers see it. I'm a rider of a rail system, so I know exactly what they mean. I can tell you when I've been stuck in the orange line. Mm-hmm. But there are measurements. We measure the general manager by that on-time performance, by that safety measure, and it's measured and reviewed every month at safety and customer service committees. But there's still challenges. One of the things I think the board really would like to be able to get to is a point where a customer can say, okay, I know something will happen, but this is going to be a rarity for me.
Right.
And it's going to always have something. You know, we carry over 800,000 people every day. Wow. And that's a lot of people. It has, I should know all the numbers of the buses and the rail cars, but there's a major amount of infrastructure that's involved. And I described it to a group that I was speaking to one year, is that you had this architect that designed this beautiful house, and they built it with the best quality and everything. And year by year passed by, and you lived in it, and you kept walking in the door. And then, let's say 40 years later, you walk through the door, and if you've never done all of the maintenance and the repairs, you know what you get. And so we're back there. We're trying to bring it back, and I think we will, and I think it is extremely successful. The good news pieces, I think the pieces are really good news for the region in knowing this, is that while we have some challenges, the National Transportation Safety Board, which was most critical when Metro had its unfortunate crash and fatalities in 2009, has said, you know, we're pleased at the direction Metro is going on safety. They are overseer in terms of safety, and they believe that we're doing the right things. We are doing it because we have a good CEO. We have someone that's not only well experienced, but committed and anxious to do the kind of work that needs to be done. We're fortunate to have the federal government to provide what we call a dedicated capital funding stream, which we've never ever had before. Mm-hmm. The funding problem with Metro is that it's like you take a family, and every year, without knowing if they're going to have a job or not, they sit down and figure out how to spend their money. Mm-hmm. That's about how it is, because it means every locality has to sit down and determine what they're going to give. Unlike someone, as in other regions where all of the other major transit systems have a dedicated stream of funds that come directly to them, be it a gas tax increase, some type of sales tax, whatever. We don't have that. It comes back to that budget we talked about earlier. What portion is going to go to Metro? Mm-hmm. So you can imagine what happened in the many years before. People squabbled over, well, I don't have enough. We shave it back, and what's not taken care of. So the commitment's there. We still are working for a dedicated funding source. We still need to have that discussion in this community, because that's the only way it will ever work correctly. But I think it is working better, and it is hard to convince people of that. We know that there are improvements, and one great one that I think is important is that We've replaced escalators. Before, we only repaired them. Well, it's 30-plus-year-old escalators, and they have to be replaced. They were built in an environment that was not the best environment, that is, exposure to weather. Yeah. And so we've done all those things, and we're just hoping that we can hold on to our customer base. We can hold the general manager to the commitment of keeping us safe, helping us to improve the reliability of the system and the service delivery. And we're going to replace those old cars. Those old cars that where the air conditioner wears out, they're 30-plus years old. They are 1/3 of the fleet that's there.
Oh my gosh.
With the extension of the Dulles Rail, we will have new cars, and we will also be replacing those cars. So that means that the extension will have a better flow of cars, but the whole system will have a better flow of really good, up to state of good repair cars.
So it's not that it's the silver line that gets the new stuff and everybody else
everybody
is
has
left.
to share.
Everybody, oh well, that's good to know, because otherwise people would be going, geez, those people out
Only
there,
those people have the good cars.
have the good cars, and the rest of us are in these horrible cars that are falling apart, kind of thing.
Right,
So,
right.
Well, good. And how is the safety record doing? Because you see it in the paper anytime anything happens. You know, the train gets stuck in a tunnel and people are walking out, and you heard all these horror stories. Is it generally better? I mean, we had that, as you say, in 2009, we had that horrible accident, and I don't recall hearing anything like that since then. So
no, we've not had any to that degree. We have a couple of partners, stakeholders that we partner with. The Tri-State Oversight Committee, the 3 jurisdictions, Maryland, Virginia, District of Columbia, have a responsibility of overseeing safety. So whenever there's an accident, they're in. We believe the relationship is more hand-in-glove relationship before. We think we're pretty much accountable to investigating and meeting the requirements. We have retrained our entire workforce in terms of safety and creating a safety culture. And I think that's really the most important. That's what we learned from that accident. It's an ingrained way that you operate, and that's the only thing you can count on. And I think keeping the commitment to having the investments, because it is rebuilding. It's rebuilding cars, it's rebuilding tracks, it's rebuilding buses. All of those things are out there. But I think we're in better state. I think we're in a much better state than we've been in before.
So the Silver Line is going to come out through Reston.
Coming out Tysons to Reston.
And there have been all kinds of fighting and all kinds of criticism of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, which is in charge of building that, including Governor McDonald fighting to get this person on, that person off. Has all of that had an impact on how you're able to run the system? Because the Metro Board runs it, they're supposed to build it, but obviously...
Well, you know, I was with Secretary LaHood just the other day, and he noted that while there has been some problems with the Metro Board, he's pleased to say the Metro organization that's building the system is a good model and is working well. And that's a really good news piece, because we're 80% finished. We think that it's going to be very much close to on time, and we expect the host to be on time and on budget, or just within that budget framework. And I think that's very important. I think the question and how you ask it is important to us, because there's been a lot said about the Metro, the airport board, right. But what we need and what we think we have is the fact a good team that has built the system, and that's really good. Metro is its partner, that it builds to the Metro standard, but the Dulles Transit partner is the contractor. They have done good work. We talked about safety before. It's been one of the safest projects in the nation. It has less than a 1% safety concern. So that's a lot when you're talking about multi-billion-dollar projects and not having safety problems and not having overruns to the extent that you would normally hear.
Well, in our last couple of minutes, I want to talk about the 2050 countywide transit network study that I was reading about. This is like the 40-year plan for transit, and we heard recently about maybe extending the Orange Line out past Vienna, but they're talking light rail, and someone mentioned streetcars.
All kinds of things.
All kinds of stuff. I mean, what's really going on with that?
Well, I think what the county has done is set we need to get our transit a definition right here. We need to say, what is it that we need, where do we need it, and how we're going to do it. We know people would love to see some sort of transit along 66. There is environmental impact coming in on that very soon. And I think we're going to continue to look because we are changing in Fairfax County. The extension from East Falls Church all the way into Tyson's Corner, Reston, and out to Dulles and beyond is just one aspect. We heard Supervisor Gross moving forward a proposal to move streetcars in the Mason District area. People want to live in a way that they can be connected and that they can move without their cars all the time. And I think that's where Fairfax County is going. I expect that we will see a lot more connectivity beside the extension of Dulles with other forms of transit. Whether you say 28, whether you say Route 66 and internally connecting, we're going to see it happen because I think we have grown to the extent that that's the way the development is going to happen in Tyson's, and that's the transportation support that we'll need.
Well, that would be amazing because at the moment,
not
like,
much exists.
The 28, it's just endless highway, and the barriers that separate the lanes and the people, because everything is all high speed. It would be amazing to be able to get someplace. And I want to put my pitch in for sidewalks. Since I've now become a walker, I never realized what terrible shapes our sidewalks are in.
That is exactly right.
And they just stop.
Well,
there you go. It's a tree in my way. I can't
we
go
consider
anywhere.
Biking and walking as other transportation modes. And they really are. And you're correct. If you don't have the infrastructure, sidewalks, bus stops, those things in place, you don't accommodate people. And that's the connectivity that we have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that'll be an interesting process.
Oh,
now,
it is.
The study, I take it, is going to make recommendations to the board. Is there actually a decisions coming? Where's the money coming from?
That's even a bigger question.
Right.
What we'll probably have is a report of the study in which it provides you alternatives. It usually starts with no bills and continue to build out what it would be, and then the board make a decision, and it's decision of mode as well as funding. And how do you get there? This is a long road.
Long process. Well, I want to say thank you for coming and talking with us tonight. Supervisor Cathy Hudgens, those of you who live in Huntermill are fortunate to have Cathy as your supervisor. And you can reach her at her office, look her up on the website if you want to talk with her about transportation, human services, or any of the other things we've discussed tonight. So thanks so much, Cathy.
Around the world, 1 out of every 3 women will be beaten or otherwise abused in their lifetime, often by a family member or loved one. A future free from violence. It's all she's ever wished for.
Did you know you have the power to stop children from joining gangs? You can help a father find a job and home for his family. You can assist a woman who can't afford the medicine she needs to live and the home she can't live without. You can choose to make a difference in our community. Support Volunteers of America, and you can help improve the lives of nearly 2 million Americans each year with programs and services that help individuals and families overcome their challenges to become as independent as possible. Support the programs that are working in our community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
For some folks, saving for the future is easy, but for you, it might take a little more effort. Saving for your future is your responsibility, and there's a lot to save for.
I never thought of that.
Like your child's education, perhaps uncovered medical expenses, or just to be sure you can live the way you want when you retire. The time is now to save for tomorrow. Save now or work forever.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. My name is Bettina Lawton. This is Inside Scoop Virginia Politics, and we are starting a new segment today. Cathy Hudgens has left the building. So what we're going to talk about next has actually been pre-recorded a couple of weeks ago with a woman who has been involved in organizing the We Are Women rally, which is happening this Saturday at the Capitol. It starts at 10 in the morning and it goes until the middle of the afternoon. The program's going to start at around 11. And we want to make sure that everyone out here knows we're in the midst of the war on women that we've talked about in many of our programs. And this is an opportunity for you to get involved, go down to the Capitol. It's supposed to be a great day. So we're going to run that clip so that you can check it out and see what's going on. So I'm going to ask the folks in our control room if they will start the clip for us. Talk about it. First of all, it's August 18th.
It's August 18th on the west lawn of the Capitol, United States Capitol, from 10 to 4. We are starting our program at 11, although there are some people that are going to come a little bit earlier, but it's from 11 to 4 if you're just going to come to the rally. We expect it to be hot. We hope that you bring umbrellas to shield you from the sun, because there's not a lot of trees on the west lawn of the Capitol. And we're expecting a large crowd.
Now, I saw something on the website that you want people to decorate umbrellas?
Absolutely.
What is that?
Well, if you're going to walk around with an umbrella to shield yourself from the heat, you might as well decorate it in a fun way, because that can serve as your protest sign.
Ah, excellent.
So it's double duty.
Double duty. You don't have to have an
you have
umbrella.
To two things.
Two things,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Two things. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Great idea. Now, are you going to have any contests for best umbrella, or it's just whatever you want to do?
We're trying to arrange that now. We're hopeful that we will, be able to do that. Depends on sponsorship, et cetera. But we'll announce that probably at the rally.
Okay. Now, you've got. How did you get involved in this? Because this is a grassroots organization, as I understand it, that led to this. This was not started by some well-established women's organization. How did you get involved?
Well, I became involved because I became very alarmed at the increased hostile environment to women's reproductive rights in the state of Virginia when they started enacting laws, or attempting to enact laws, that would block access to clinics, that would require mandatory ultrasounds. And it became abundantly clear to me that the legislative environment, not only here, but the exponential rise in anti-women legislation in this country, required an appropriate response from women throughout this country. And so we started to become engaged, and through the grassroots, through social media. The co-founders of our particular rally met online, and they said, we got to do something. And so they decided, it's up to us. We have to step in, and we have to start organizing.
This is one of those great social media stories.
Exactly.
I love that, because I've done a number of shows on the use of social media and how you can bring about change. And so this is another example from my little book to say this is one of them. Now let's talk about, you do have some support by some other organizations now that you've got it going. The National Council of Women's Organizations, the National ERA Alliance. I love the one, Rock the Slut Vote. I thought, really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Moms Rising, Rainbow Push Coalition in Florida, and the Coalition of Labor Union Women, apparently.
Yes.
So what is bringing all of these very diverse groups? Because you talked about sort of this anti-reproductive right legislation going on. But this is also, frankly, I didn't know the National ERA Alliance still existed.
That was something that I just recently became aware of. I mean, I grew up in an era where, you know, they were attempting to enact the ERA, and now that they realize we have no foundation in our laws. A lot of people, the old excuse was, oh, well, you're covered by the 14th Amendment.
Right.
Well, it apparently doesn't work. We need something that is going to be the foundation of our rights house. And I believe that enacting the ERA is that foundation. And so the women's groups are starting to coalesce around trying to get those 3 states that still have not enacted the ERA to go ahead and do that, so that women in this country will finally have that foundation that they can build on, and to ensure that our rights are protected in this country.
You mentioned a program starting at 11. What's the program about?
Well, the program is going to be, basically our themes are women's reproductive rights, equal pay, and the attack on voter suppression, as well as violence against women and violence against the LGBT community. We are going to have folks from various organizations with Mira Kiesling from the National Transgender Equality organization. We're going to have folks from various other gay and lesbian organizations there. We're going to be having, you know, obviously we're going to have some of the politicians that are running. Wayne Powell, who is running for Eric Cantor's seat,
Indeed,
is going to be one of our guest speakers. We are very honored to have members of the ERA task force, Bobby Francis, Roberta Francis, and Bettina Hager is going to be speaking. We're also going to have Planned Parenthood. Laura Myers is going to be speaking. We've got NOW, the Executive Vice President of NOW, Bonnie Graberhofer, is going to be a keynote speaker. We have many speakers. We have bands. We're going to have some bands. We have the Reformed Whores are going to be.
And go to, I want to say this because I went to the website, and which is wearewomen.uk, right?
No,
US. I'm sorry,
US. Woman with an A.
Women with an A.
Yes.
And we, and the Reformed Whores, there's a little thing on YouTube videos that you can watch. And so I thought, well, let me watch some of these. And the Reformed Whore people, girls, came on. They were a stitch. I thought they were a stitch.
Yes.
And it was followed by an amazing video, the We Are Warriors.
That's right.
Video, and that was just fabulous. So people really ought to go to that website and take a look at those, because it was marvelous.
Yes, they've done a wonderful job, and we want women to go there because we want young women to go there. You know, the women of my generation helped create some of the laws that, of course, now they're chipping away at.
Exactly.
But now we need the young women to engage, because they're going to be facing a country with laws that prevent them from having privacy of their body, sovereignty over their bodies. You know, we're going to have more suppression of rights and voting rights. We're going to have equal pay cuts for women. So it's important that we educate our women, our young women now, and get them engaged, because right now they're not.
Right. Now, if someone wants to come, is there transportation being arranged? Is there housing here being arranged? How do they just go to the website?
They can go to the website and to wearewomen.us, and there are resources there for transportation. There's rally buses that have been arranged in various localities. There are housing, pretty much hotel housing, although on some of the a few of the forums, there's a few folks that are offering, you know, I'll let you use my room, or, you know, my house, or whatever. You know, so, you know, they can use those resources. That website is an excellent resource to get rally merchandise, t-shirts, etc., if they want to do that. If you're an organization and you're interested in supporting the We Are Women rally, you can find out how to do that on the website, where we have a special link for sponsorship and the cost related to that.
Okay. Now, there's no march associated with this, right?
There's not a march. We were planning one, but unfortunately the Capitol Police felt, they're not permitting anymore for marches for the summer, and the reason why is because of the heat. They've had a drain with other marches on the EMS system, and so they decided to stop permitting for marches. We do have some women who are meeting at various locations close to the West Lawn, some of the museums. The Indian Museum, for instance, is very close, and that's air conditioned. They have a nice cafe.
Excellent. So they've got some place to go and start from.
Yes, exactly.
And do you expect people from all 48 continental states? Is that?
We are expecting people from all over the country. We have on the website, we have a forum for each state. You can go there and either ask questions, or you can go to wearewomen.us@gmail.com if you need a question. It's monitored daily, so we'll answer anybody's questions, or if they have any needs, or if they have what they want to speak. Even though we have a full speaker list, if folks want to participate, we are welcoming that.
Now, are you encouraging people to form We Are Women state chapters, or when the march is done, are you done?
No, we're not done. We are not going to be done until we know that our rights are secure, and it's a constant battle. And so we're planning on creating a strategy so that, first of all, we can help with the election. We need to help and support those legislators who are going to support women's rights and the other issues that we're concerned about. And so that's our big push after this, is going to be getting out the vote and getting and sounding the alarm. Our biggest point of this whole rally is to sound the alarm. We are under attack, and the media isn't really listening to us. I mean, in April, there was a large group of rallies in each state in the United States. 48,000 women participated in these rallies, and the national media didn't cover hardly any of them. Right. So no wonder the legislators in our various state houses and in Congress can stand up at a podium and say there's no war on women, because they're not listening. And so we need to sound that alarm, and we need to make them listen. We need to make them aware that we are going to remember in November.
Well, and that is going to be the issue. We are coming up to a break. I want to just say August 18th,
yes,
10 to 4, West Lawn of the Capitol. Be there, get out. You don't have to march. You can just take the subway and be there. It'll be a great event. Check out the website, and I want to thank you, Jackie, for coming. And
thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Well, it should be a great event. Thank you.
Thank you.